What is up, guys? This is Alex from First Figures.
Hey everyone, this is Chuckles.
Who do we have here? Dark Souls
Mimic!
Yeah! It's been a long time in coming, Chucks.
That's right.
But finally, we're back at it again with one of these making of documentaries. This time, of course, Dark Souls' Mimic. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. And that's actually not usually the case when you first encounter your first Mimic. You're never usually alive.
That is true.
Usually you end up dying.
That's right. You're going to die once with a Mimic.
There is always going to be like your first kiss, your first love, your first time you did this, then you find your first time you ever meet a Mimic, and there's always a first time, and then there has always been a reason why you hit every single chest in every single game.
That's right.
Moving forwards, and of course that is
you give
the Mimic.
You give it a quick tap.
Sometimes, if you're not too sure, a double tap.
That's right. Gently.
Absolutely. Guys, if this is the first time you've ever come to see one of these making of documentaries, we really hope that you enjoy and come back for some more. We like to go into a bit of the details, some of the design choices, why we do what we do, why do we make it like this, what were some of the alternatives we could have done, and we sort of go into a bit of that, and we also sort of go into answering people's questions, Shocks.
That's right. So just to carry on from what Alex was saying, so documentaries, this is the making of documentary, everything about Mimic from the Dark Souls line. And if you want to check out all the other Dark Souls making of documentary, which we did with Artorias, the Abyss Walker.
We're quite deep into the line now, Chuck.
Yeah, this is the fourth one. So there's the Great Grey Wolf Sith.
The fifth one.
The fifth one, sorry, my bad. Yeah. So there's an Artorias, there's a Sith, there's the Slayer of Stora, and then Dragon Slayer on Steam.
Yeah,
that's right. And then the fifth one, that's right. Fifth one.
You just
took
away 6 months of my life like that, just like that.
It's been a while. So everything can be found on our YouTube channel, so make sure to check those out and subscribe. Thank you very much. Yes. And if you want to be part of the making of documentary, make sure you join our First for Figures official collectors club on Facebook. In there, every time we do a launch, I'll make a post in there asking you guys, do you have any questions for us, which we will go through one by one. And in there's some shout outs as well, so keep an eye out for that.
Absolutely. Boom. All right, so whilst we're chatting, and I believe you have some questions, I'm sure.
Yes, let's give this a spin.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a turn. He is so creepy looking, Joe.
So massive. Which is great. It's beautiful.
Ginormous.
Creepy yet beautiful. All right.
So you put those words together. I'm not quite sure they go together, but yeah.
In a beautiful way. All right, first question.
Damn, all right, no messing about.
No messing about, straight into it, yes. So, first question from Jeremy Beerson. Mimic is the first generic enemy in the Dark Souls line. How did you decide on doing this over another boss character?
Well, that's a great question. So, Chalks, you were talking a little bit about the Facebook official collectors club that we run. Yeah. And in there, we do a lot of things. Well, you talked about the making of documentary, asking people questions. They're asking us the questions, I should say. But the community is fantastic. Showing the latest products that are coming up, the community showing their latest products that they've received, this and that. But a lot of the things that we also do, Chokes, is we run polls.
That's right.
What do you guys want to see? Do you want to see this? Do you want to see that? Whatever you want to see. And we had done a boss poll. I think number one was, of course, Artorias, which was one of the ones that which was the first one that we actually launched. Yeah. And of course, with the club growing as it is, and people coming back and voting on things over time or whatever it may be, Artorias was number one for that. And then we also ran, after a little bit of time, we did a NPC kind of more generic sort of enemy, sort of not a boss enemy, basically. NPCs, actually, it wasn't just enemies. It was anything to do with, it could be NPCs as well, because reality is Slayer wasn't a
playable character,
right? A boss character, to be honest with you. But maybe, to be honest with you, it's a little bit. It was quite a long time ago. But in terms of that poll we ran, if it's either NPCs or it's sort of more like generic enemies that you can get multiples of, Mimic came out on top. I think it is one of the more memorable characters.
Yeah.
And the fact is, when you see one for the first time, and the reason why that you then get that experience and move it onto other games is kind of something that's very memorable, and then people have a really amazing love-hate relationship with these.
Right. I mean, you get treasure chests and you get mimics in other game titles,
right?
But this is one of the characters that you see. Everyone will see in the game, in the Dark Souls series, no matter what. Because like for Artorias, you had to have the downloadable content to actually see the character. But for this one, you encounter him very earlier on.
Absolutely, and you know he's also in a few. He's not in just Dark Souls 1. He's in 2 and 3.
That's right.
And hey, that's what people wanted to see. Very happy to be here presenting it so long after that poll. But it goes to show you a little bit about the lead time, how long these things can actually take. So, you know, in terms of doing this over another boss character, well, the answer is we're doing other boss characters as well.
We work on multiple projects at a time, at the same time. Yeah, so we do some boss characters that we're developing, and we also develop non-playable characters as well.
And we're obviously developing a lot more in those NPC. Sorry, in the boss characters right now, which are there's and then there's and then there.
Let's leave that for another.
Oh, that's another making of documentary.
That's right. Yes.
Absolutely. So it's it made sense. People. If you're going to do one, why don't we start with the one that did the best on the poll and
work our way,
I think it's
work our way
iconic
down.
enough.
If guys want to see more NPC characters, we'll work our way down.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. All right, cool, Chocks.
All right. Second question from Sav Cantus. Why go with the Dark Souls 1 Mimic over, say, Dark Souls 2 Mimic?
Right, that's a great question. Or why not the Dark Souls 3 one? Again, this really goes to a time when we actually looked at when we had the license. We originally started the licenses off with Dark Souls. And when we ran that poll, it was based on... And again, it really highlights how long these things take to develop because since that time we ran that poll, we've subsequently announced that we've been working on titles from... characters from Dark Souls 2 and 3. And those are still in development. And... what really highlights is the fact that these have been in the works for such a long time that it was predates the time that we actually said that we had the Dark Souls 2 and 3, which was what we announced in, I believe it was October, New York Comic Con 2017. 2017, that dates this. You
so
can
the poll would have been before then.
Absolutely, and then the work on this was before that. Because, Chocks, do you recall when we actually first showed this piece?
Wow. During the Christmas, right?
Nope.
Was it not?
Oh, sorry, to be clear, we'd already shown, the 3D and all that sort of stuff. That was announced. That was at the Christmas time. But and that's absolutely right, since then, when did we first physically show this piece?
Oh, ourselves or the licensor?
The licensor.
That's right, yes.
Absolutely.
I believe it was E3.
Absolutely.
That's
right.
Yeah, props to Bandai Namco.
So, right, E3...
managed to find a case.
There was a lot of... Because it's so massive, right?
And
there was a lot of touch and go about custom cases or not. In the end, we had to display him to the side. But you get that really great... Look at that
attacking sideways.
Look at that great profile pic there. You can get that amazing profile right there. Look at the way that those arms...
if those guys remember back at the Bandai Namco booth at E3, Artorias was on this side. So it was kind of like the head-on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in terms of the first time that it was in this state and shown, it was at E3, implying it's been in development for a long time. So, the answer to Sal Cantus's question is there was no other choice. When we developed it, it was Dark Souls 1 or there was nothing else. So, that's pretty clear, pretty straightforward.
All right. Next question from James Bennington. When developing Mimic, did you want to go more creepy with its posing and make it contort unnaturally?
Okay, you know what? I think that's a great question to talk a little bit more about the pose itself. Now, let's talk about the arms. The legs, they're pretty humanoid-esque. The arms themselves are really, really different. And the reason why they're different is because they don't bend the right way, they're opposite. So the way this sort of comes up, it's almost like
don't do
shoulder. But you see that the way it's like almost like it's the wrong way that if you imagined that these arms were bent downwards, you can probably get that feeling where it's it's really kind of weird. It kind of looks awkward the way that arms bend at this and it's kind of going downwards. It's not quite right. it's just unnatural the way it comes forward.
You're gonna be like double jointed. Or you're gonna be that breakdance kid.
But I think it all stems from the fact that he doesn't have a head, and so for the shoulders, it doesn't really have this idea of it sort of naturally. When you put your arms down, your arms are normally naturally going down. But the Mimic, he comes out of the box, he comes out of the treasure chest, so he comes upwards, he comes out and then up, and therefore the arms sort of come up like this, and then I think it's the way that the arms are coming sort of. For us, our elbows come out to the side. That's sort of the best I can do. It's the up movement, and that really leads to this kind of contorting, unnatural, jerky movement, kind of that sort of stuff. Now the legs themselves, again, they are pretty sort of going in a normal kind of human sort of lurching course. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the sculpt here, Chocks. I'm talking about the pose and the way that the joints are. The knees are where the knee joint should be, and the thigh bones connected, all that sort of stuff, right? The knee bones connected to the etc. And all that works, and all of that is perfectly normal with regards to the Mimic. Of course, it still has a bit of creepiness where they're a little bit twisted, a little bit more than they would be for you to feel natural. It's got that kind of twisting. I mean, look at a great example is if we take a look, Chocks, if you have a look at the knee here, you've got the knee here. This foot is inwards, sort of going that way, and this foot is going that way. So it's almost like super twisted, and it's in a really unnatural way. And that really kind of has been a lot of the choices that we've been following to kind of make it creepy, unnatural. In a way, you have to kind of double take and go, oh, that doesn't sort of look quite right. So why don't you talk a little bit what else you see about this pose, Jocks, and the kind of we didn't really want to go for a sort of standing. I mean, there was a couple of choices, Jocks. One of them was the booting pose.
Yeah. Just the kind of see that quite a lot.
So what want to talk a little bit about how that comes out?
What do you mean, like coming?
So if you're fighting him, one of his moves is just
one of his moves is kind of is it a side kick or is it just boot straight?
It's just like a teep kick. I don't know, just straight.
I can't remember. It's been a while, but definitely there's a kicking move in there.
We had thought about that, but we thought, you know what? People are already concerned about how this is.
How's that gonna? Yeah, exactly. Because
imagine it with one foot.
It's a very tall, skinny character. So
absolutely top heavy.
Yeah. So having that doing that kicking move is kind of like probably not. Probably not a good choice. One other way is like obviously once he's out of the chest, he's always lunging at you. No matter where you go in the game, always following you. So
right.
Keeps constantly chasing you down, and then so this is kind of like what we wanted to achieve, where it's literally just came out of the box and started attacking.
Right.
So give off this kind of a creepy, scary action pose. So.
Actually, absolutely right. But also, it's also been inspired by actual official artwork.
Yeah.
If you type in the Mimic and look, when you're doing the research, he does have this pose, but he doesn't actually. It's more like the upper body. It's not really the legs. So we just played a little bit more with that, and sort of to get the kind of creepiness, sort of creepy sort of movement to it, and the pose itself is really like. The body is leaning to the left, but the chest is leaning to the right. If you look straight on here, it's kind of like this part is leaning this direction for the lower part, and the top part is leaning this way to give a kind of contorting. It looks creepy, Chocks. It looks really, really creepy, and it kind of gives this mesmerization movement to it, and that was really something that we wanted to make sure came into the actual pose itself, and I think it came out really, really well in that regards. So to answer James Bennington's question, do we want to go creeping? Well, yes, the answer is yes, of course, but also we were inspired by that original artwork, but then bringing the way that the hands are and the legs and what have you was definitely something that always talked about and considered at the time for the design process.
Yeah, so hopefully, just from the transitioning from the artwork into this statue form, hopefully we've translated that, kind of giving off that movement. Yeah,
I hope you can see that we captured that. I think for sure. That's definitely a bit of a spin.
Cool. And as well as because like you can see from the feet here, one of them is like kind of like almost off the ground.
Right.
And then this one is like pushing against the ground.
Yeah, you know,
Yes.
absolutely right. You're talking about that pose, so why don't we talk a little bit about the hands themselves?
Yeah.
Start looking at the hands. They're not sort of like, they're not sort of open out. They're not like. Sometimes if you do a human character, if they're sort of reaching for you, it's kind of like, you know, normal, sort of reaching. But this one is kind of like this, and then it's kind of like really kind of gnarled. And I think it's because he's so long, it kind of adds to that. He's got these long arms, long limbs, long fingers. Can you see that with the pose chocks? The way it's kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen a lot of horror movies, I guess a lot of these enemies kind of like that.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
and you can imagine it's got
those,
that kind of,
those Japanese like horror films.
you can imagine that kind of creeping, kind of like.
As it's coming towards you like that, like twitching and all that stuff.
And as you were saying about the pose itself, Jocks, how do we give a feeling that he's in motion, that he's going for you, that he's chasing you? Well, there's nothing that says that more than how do you create that motion on a static figure? There's nothing that creates that more than having a feet position that looks like it's pushing off to come after you. And you really have that, as you were saying, with this foot here, just the balls of the the balls of the toes.
Yeah.
Are straight up like that, and the way he's moving. This one is so he's pushing off of his back foot, which is why this one is flat, because it's the natural gait, the natural movement of a mimic or this kind of creature. Anybody, you were pushing off of the back foot in order to propel yourself forward. So it has that kind of bent foot feeling, the way that is almost, and it's unnatural looking. If it was a normal human, you would expect it to be at this angle, Chocks. You're very unlikely to get it. Like, you're going to have it more that this foot here doesn't go down and across like that so much. It more come up at an angle. A more natural effect it'd be more like an angle. Whereas this is literally almost like 90 degrees here. And that shows a kind of flexibility. I mean, the boy has been in a bloody, chest for a while. But the way that is kind of bent in that way, it's kind of wanted to. It's all these sort of small, subtle things that make it creepy. That it's natural but not natural. You take one look, it's like normal legs, but no, they're not. To get this kind of movement here is not normal. It's not normal, so that's what is kind of highlighted here. For sure. Okay.
Yeah. So the movement. Talking about the movement, obviously from looking at the side, you can see he's leaning forward as well, as though he's about to lunge forward with a kick, maybe.
Sure, that would be maybe the next move. Now, the sense of motion as well. We also can't not miss the tongue in the room.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this piece itself is the focus on that tongue. And the tongue, we didn't just have it flopping down. It has this, as you left it in a great position here, Chocks. It has this really crazy curl-esque kind of shape going over it, kind of giving this kind of floppy, slithery.
I'm coming to get you.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's right. So it has that kind of like movement there, and as a mimic would do, right? As he's coming towards you and attacking you.
The question is, could you find it believable that the next movement, if it was a real mimic, did you feel like this is what it would look like in the game and in real life if it was milking? That's the sort of stuff we're trying to get a snapshot of that. And having the movement in the tongue, the movement in the feet, the movement in the arms, all of that really is something to consider. And of course, you have to open up his chest to actually see these parts. So having the pose with the chest is completely open, no ifs or buts. That's how it would be. And you can sort of see it from the side, just to get an understanding of just how open it is. It's like max open. If you imagine a treasure chest, you lift it up and then you put it down. Max open is like that. So wanted to make sure that he had that when you were doing the pose.
And also, talking about the chest, the motion of the chain as well, how it sticks out, as though as you move, the metal chain is swinging towards the back.
I think that's probably the only indication of just how fast he's moving towards you.
Well, he's not just about speed. If in the game, he's definitely has speed, but he also has power as well. The way he's stomping on the ground, you can see the cracks directly underneath the feet.
Sure.
So there's definitely strength in this character.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, he can boot you across the bloody room. So, yeah, absolutely.
Those muscles and like all over him.
Absolutely. So I think I just want to re-highlight what you were saying there. The sense of movement in that chain is really, really great. I like the way that kind of curls out onto the side, and whether or not that means that it's, you know, and just how it does that movement. I really like it. Gives that sense of feeling of movement. Cool. Should we go to the next question then, Jocks?
Okay, next question from Devon Wenstrom. What is your favorite detail about Mimic and why?
This is a great question to talk a little bit about that detail. Chocks, you already started by talking about the base. Why don't you continue talking a little bit about the base, and we'll come back after we go through all the details and say which one that you like, which one that I like,
sure,
and
okay.
you know, all that sort of
I mean, base, very, very square shape. There's a reason why we went for this one, because it's straight from the level Anor Londo.
And you know that Anor Londo has that beautiful tiling, and it made sense for it to go around the tiling.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, if you're in the level, you know, when you approach a chest, you see that a lot of it's kind of like an open area, spacious area. It has that, gives that feeling of that. Oh my God, I'm alone in this area. I'm about to approach this treasure chest. As like, what's going to happen?
Especially when you don't know your first time.
Yeah, if you don't know your first time, you'll be like wandering around on that level.
And you spot that chest from miles away, right?
Yeah. And it's like really emptiness and lonely, right in the corner or something.
And you know, you're looking around.
Like
you're in a huge area.
Yeah.
There's nothing around you except for the chest. You just run towards it. As you can see, there's no enemies except for the first thing you didn't realize was that the enemy you're running
it's
towards.
Right in front of you.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, hopefully we captured the kind of the dirtiness, the griminess of the actual level. You can see the dirt and the wash between the tiling. There's actually, you know, putting your finger across the ground, there is texture on the ground. It's very subtle, but there are textures on each tile, and it's raised at different levels, as though this building is very worn. There's cracks between different tiles in the corners.
So, for example, this one over here, right? If we're doing a game of battleships, it would be B3.
B3. That's right. Yeah.
This one in the top left corner of it is down, and this part is up. Whereas if you look at this one over here, for example, this one is down, and that part is sort of slightly up, and they're all slight variations. This one is also very down, and this part's very up. And there's cracks, and there's you know,
there's different stains as well.
Stains as well.
There's like a bit of red, a bit of green, like mold kind of feeling.
It's dirty as hell,
very,
you know, and that's really representative of that location. And you know, of course, you do find mimics elsewhere, but we wanted to go with this one. In fact, it was From Software was like, hey, this is the one that we should go with.
All right, sweet.
Originally was in another place, I think it was. But yeah, so and then having that to be cut off and a sort of square shape made sense, because if you were to then make it circular, it would be a shame to then make these circular. I mean, those are all, you know, there's maybe no real, it's all subjective, it's up to you, but we went to go with that in that square shape. So I really like how that came out.
And as I was saying, with the more details around the feet, there's definitely much more cracks around this area.
And that is the sort of small detail that gives you a sense of weight to the mimic itself. Because otherwise, if you don't have those cracks, it could be, you don't quite have that sort of, the fact is, you've got this creature running after you, and it's having the ability to crack the flooring itself. For me, is, you know, it's pretty scary, as you can imagine. Cool. Do you want to keep on going with some of that detail then?
Upwards from the feet.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, the feet from the camera, I'm not sure how it picks up, but you can see all these different veins and grooves. It's much easier to see with the highlights, different highlights. You can see the different kind of like, what's this? Kind of like
the texture.
Yeah, I mean texture, but it's kind of like very old, scrunched up,
leathery texture. leathery texture. But you know, if you talk about the veins, I think you're probably going to look at the entirety of the piece itself. It's just the veins across the entire body. Now, of course, the body itself, forget about the anatomy, but the way that we're treating the body has the muscle tone and it has veins in there because he's incredibly scrawny.
Yeah.
And there's not much. I mean, the body fat percentage on this bad boy is really low. I'm totally jealous. And the veins are kind of, they're raised. It's not like here. It's like, you know, like these big bodybuilders, you'll see like raised veins.
Yeah.
That's totally what you're seeing over here. You can see veins going throughout the skin. Now, not all of them are painted blue. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And it's to do with, you can see some raisedness, but sometimes it's not necessarily painted. It's to give a bit of variation between the two.
And plenty of skin texture. That's what I'm trying to come across, the skin texture.
The skin texture is absolutely, I mean, all over it. And there's tons of it. And they're not all the same, Chocks. If you look at the skin texture on the bottom of the heel, etc., or you look at the thigh, or you look at the arms, there are different skin textures at different locations. Like, for example, the back of the fingers, it's a kind of like you have that kind of horizontal lines that go across for how you would have when you're talking about fingers themselves are going across the knuckles, and
the different like the forearms and biceps, they're like the paws, they're much different than the ones that you see along his thighs and his legs.
You're totally right, Chocks. You know, the skin textures in the different locations, they really do have some variation to it. Just to, you know, we want, when you're looking at our pieces, that you're finding a little texture, you know, some details that you maybe didn't notice the first time around. Especially with these more, I wouldn't say realistic, it's the sort of more detailed pieces that we're talking about over here. Because, you know, we do lots of different varieties of statues, but this one in particular is all about the high details. And what's interesting, Chocks, of course, is there's not much to the Mimic. He is skin and chest, and of course the other elements, but it's not like he has lots of different armor like what we were discussing when we were doing Ornstein. There was lots of different things to be talking about this, whereas this is, once you're talking about the skin textures, you're going to apply that concept throughout the entirety of it. But let's talk a little bit about that anatomy, Chocks. We sort of talked about the muscles. Let's look into a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, can you see from, probably best like checking it out from the back. To the rib cage as well, the bones going around the back.
And if you look at the, so this is to do with the actual muscle groups, and again done in that sort of pulled and scrawny, but still has that kind of thickness to it. Then you also have the subtlety of the rib cage going along here, around on the sort of sides. If we sort of turn that around to the side,
it's very lean,
incredibly lean, and that leanness you can sort of really see with the anatomy here going into the pelvis, the hip bones. You see that the way that comes round, and if you keep an eye on that hip bone, it comes around to the other side as well. If you look at the you know, the calves, the quads, the hamstrings, they're all sort of there, but done again in a kind of unnatural way, and it lends to that creepiness, and the way it's sort of thinner here, thicker here, thinner then, all of that sort of stuff really adds to that. If you look at some of the details of, and that muscle group goes across into the arms as well. Why don't you sort of see? Can you see the triceps and the biceps?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But they're kind of like the wrong
shoulder, underneath the arm.
And Chocks, you're in the perfect position to look at that tongue.
Yeah, it's very, very long. It's about, I don't know, 7-8 inches long.
I don't even know what the Guinness Book of Records longest tongue is, but I think Mimic would hands down win it.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very dirty. There's like lots of greens, moss, you know, moldy. Yeah, there's like tons of veins going down along and near the top. It's much more dirty at the top, and it comes down slightly more pinky at the bottom.
And can you see it has a very difference in kind of shininess compared to the body?
Yeah, all the saliva dripping down all the way to the tip of the tongue.
Now you can see it over here, right? We use the kind of PU material that what we do is we kind of coat it and let it naturally drip, and then that will solidify over time, and that's the reason why it still looks like it's really wet, but actually this is dry. And it will lead to some variations in production because it depends on how you leave it and how it sort of drips down and how it sort of forms at the tongue edge. But definitely that's something that we wanted to make sure it had that kind of feeling of wetness to it, and I think it came out really great.
Yeah, it came out very good, definitely.
Maybe we could add a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. For me, anyway, I would like to have a bit more as well as it's coming out. Yeah,
you like that, do you?
It's very thirsty.
You just made me. But it's interesting. You like the wet tongue. You're a wet tongue fan, are you?
Yes, definitely. The wetter the better. So the tongue.
What you do in the practice.
So the tongue.
And the texture though is not the same.
Texture is not the same. The tongue.
It's
a different part of the body, right? So it definitely has more natural patterns and textures there, and the thickness as well is much thicker.
It's
at
like
the top.
rounder pores, isn't it? Going through there. When's the last time you had some ox tongue?
Yeah, guys. I mean, it's really hard to capture here, but actually, it's very hard to capture from. Yeah. So from here, you can see the back of the tongue.
Right.
Yeah. So the same textures, the veins are applied throughout, all the way into the inside of the chest.
And the veins are really kind of important to see. It does have a kind of wetness in the middle as well, like it's kind of pooling more down the middle of the ridge going down. And what's important is that if you look at it from over here, maybe it kind of shows that this ridge over here, it goes inwards, kind of like you imagine normal tongue.
Yeah, that line that goes down the middle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was going to say on the back as well.
And it comes down.
I'm looking at the back.
Right. So the top part goes in, and the bottom part comes out.
But the thing is, not just that; it's the side of. Side of the tongue, how it's kind of like flares out. It's like those veins. Like if you were I'm not doing that. Cut that bit off. But, if you were to play with your sticking out your tongue in front of the mirror, you can see the veins that goes underneath.
Depending on if you go like thin, you kind of like you have the ability to kind of widen it or not.
Yeah.
Widen it as well. Some people have better control of their tongues than others.
That's right.
Indeed. That's for another documentary. And because it's so in your face and central to his character, we spent quite a lot of time back and forth with From Software. They were very, very specific about it.
Very.
Especially the colors. We actually did it a lot brighter. Like used the lipstick and accidentally did a bit on the tongue, but they said no, it needs to be really darkened it out. And
well, it was bright, would have been called Bright Souls, right? But to keep with the Dark Souls theme, definitely, we hope that this does mimic the honors, like truly representing him. Hopefully,
absolutely.
Hopefully, you guys see that as well.
Absolutely. So, we've talked a little bit about the tongue. We talked a little bit about the skin
body,
texture, the muscle tones, and all that sort of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about there are some non-organic areas. Of course, let's talk about the bangles and let's talk about the chest shocks. What do you see over here?
Oh wow, the chest! It's massive. It's like a good 6-7 inches wide, and so basically we did a lot of research into the game, making sure that the chest is kind of like the right shape and the proportions, blends in well with the base as well, as in proportion wise, scale wise, and then so as the box opens, first thing you see are the teeth, the claws, let's call it, the teeth, claws. So there's tons and tons of that. I don't know how many there are.
It's like finger claws and stuff like that. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
How many are there like?
A lot. Now we haven't 100% decided if it's going to be a PVC or how we're going to do this. I'm concerned about if we just did it in resin, if it's going to lead to sort of chips or what have you. So we'll have to do some research into that whilst we go into the production stage and how we'll sort of make sure that. But visually it will be the same. We just need to figure out how we're going to do that.
I mean, it's textured in a way how a wooden chest would be.
Right. So you're talking about the chest now, not the
chest.
teeth,
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the teeth. So the teeth is it's very bony looking, just like the
little fingers and stuff like that, because they're kind of moving around.
And they're all in different angles.
They're not all the same, right?
They're on the same level. So some of the front, some of the back.
He's not being.
So it's like that, right? As like a Venus flytrap.
Absolutely.
How it closes, it's.
Anolondo does not have a good dentist, because that's like key for braces, and then you could have them perfectly aligned. But unfortunately, there isn't one over there in Anolondo. So those teeth are bloody all over the place. They're not straight. They're all different levels up and down, etc., etc.
And the paint app on that, very bony looking, very dirty. Still have a bit of kind of whiteness, just a break from the kind of dark browns and the dark greys from Mimic himself.
Right.
So they do stick out. They do stand out. They do pop.
Oh, I mean, if you look at the camera itself, you can kind of get this really dark looking into the actual middle of the chest, and then you see these teeth, finger teeth, clawy teeth, all coming out like that.
Yeah.
It really is quite. It's very true to the game as well, and I think I love the way that it's not just one tooth. It's got like these ridges. It's like there's a tip. There's different sections to it, Chocks. Can you see that? I mean, it's like 3 sections, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine it's got joints to it, basically, right?
Yeah, 3 sections.
Yeah, and then if you look at the chest.
Yeah, the chest. It's not just 2 boxes, a lid and a box itself. You can see from the sides and the back, you can see the actual hinges inside, the metal hinges.
That's hinges, absolutely.
Yeah, and then on the side of the box, you obviously get the handles with the chain on this side, and then you can even see underneath here. You can see where the lock goes into the what do you call it? The kind of
the clasp.
The clasp, yeah. And so the other part is right at the top in the middle here. You see it?
Absolutely, right here.
Right
and
there.
Then it goes, and that's actually hiding under the tongue. That's the sort of stuff that we let people find out afterwards, but you just spoiled it.
This is the making of documentaries.
True that.
Go for everything.
True that.
Yeah, and then like all the different signs have been heavily textured. Old, worn, cracks.
And it's also inside as well, Chocks.
Yeah, inside as well. Yeah, definitely. Underneath the chest as well, where the body is underneath there.
Now, the paint details on this is not just one grey colour, is it, Chocks? If you look at the actual skin tone, can you see, for example, up here, there's like kind of like dried blood on it, and it's really subtle. If you look at it from a distance, it's kind of greyish. When you go in there, then you see the different paint techniques. There's
definitely. I mean, like the dirt, the feet the dirt on the feet itself, back underneath the feet, on top of the nails. It's all different colour because obviously he's running around the floor. He's picking up the dirt and stuff, and then you work your way up. You can see like blood stains along his shins going upwards.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. So this thing is textured from top to bottom, or should I say chest to feet.
Chest to feet, yeah.
Textured from chest to feet, and I'm really happy the way it's all come out from the original concept. Very, very happy the way that we could maintain that detail into the piece itself, and really do Mimic justice in that regard. And I think you'll find that it's very true to the source. So hopefully, when you go back and compare it to the reference material, you'll agree.
Yeah. One other thing is this.
Right, the bangle.
Yeah, I remember we had a lot of back and forth with From Software on that one. They were quite specific how the thickness and the angle it's around his wrist.
And it's the way it's leaning down, it's just at the point where his hand is moving, so it's a natural. It's not like it's higher up, it's down to where it's supposed to be. So all of that is these small kind of considerations that we do. How would it be if there was a real Mimic? Would his bracelet be up here, or would it slide down to over here? All that sort of stuff is the kind of stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis, Chocks. So if we have something Mimic, and how that would look.
I think we're missing one thing.
Oh no, we haven't forgotten about that. We're going to go back to just talking about the nails as well. Just wanted to talk about the details.
Very sharp, shiny.
Different colours as well, just to give a kind of claws or talons that are there for that, and you can see that. But I've absolutely not forgotten that there is.
Making sure. One important thing.
It's a very important thing. Chocks, what do you see there?
Ooh, look at that. It's really hard to see from the camera. But all over his body, chest, legs, feet, thighs, arms, shoulders are hair.
Maybe Tim can do a bit of a close-up.
Yeah, take some close-up of the body parts.
Now the way this is done, right, it is first of all, what you do is you add a little bit of glue, then you add some fibers from some cloth, put it over it, and then it gets stuck down on there, and then you use a spray coating to kind of lock it in. Now, of course, if you start there and you start ripping it off, then it's not like embedded into it. Of course, it's glued on, so we don't recommend you do that. It will come off. But if you just generally put it in there and you sort of generally just sort of leave it there, and you're not like trying to actively pull it off, it will be great. And the point is supposed to be really, really subtle.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've used this technique. I've used it before in other products over my past career, sort of development stuff, and I felt it really worked well, and I felt it would work really well with this character because a lot of it is really, quite similar in terms of it's all skin. Yes, of course, there's paint details. Yes, there's that, but everyone likes a bit of fuzziness every now and then. And I think
it is because like we took this to a couple of different conventions, and a lot of people was like from a distance, like, "Oh wow, Mimic, yeah," and get closer to it. It's got hair on it. And it's like, that was like kind of one of the highlights.
Right. Yeah. And when we first showed this to From Software, they were like, "Oh, okay, yeah. That's fuzzy," and they were totally supportive of having that on there. And I think it really kind of gives it that kind of moldy feeling to it, and it's what you kind of see with the coloring as well, especially with the tongue. You said it was kind of moldy. I really like it, and that for me
it really works because it's kind of a naked body here,
right?
So you would expect kind of it's been in the chest for a long while, hair's growing. Not quite. So definitely works.
So going back to Devon Wenstrom's question from 10 minutes ago, whatever it was.
What is your favourite detail about Mimic and why?
I was never going to forget about the fur chocks because that's my favourite.
That's your favourite detail.
I always knew as soon as I saw this piece that it needed to have that, and I love the way it came out. I said I had experience of doing it before, and I love that it translated well with it on the Mimic itself.
Right. Well, if you took that, then I guess I got to take the saliva. It's definitely one of the highlights there. It could do with a bit more.
You and tongues chocks.
Yeah,
as I said, I'm no surprise.
I can understand why you. I can understand why you like hair. Yeah. So the hair. It's not just about the lower body. The hair goes all the way inside, from the shoulders all the way top of his hands as well.
Any of the skin area, you got to have that. As you said, you're not going to have it on the finger. It's not on the on the toes. It's not on the fingers. But it's almost like with a human as well. You kind of have it on the forearms and the legs, depending on how hairy you are, depending on what it is. But yeah, it's got this really subtle. It's called a subtle flocking. Basically, it's a bit of flocking on that, but very, very minimalistic and really, really subtle. So you got to like, hey, is that what I'm seeing in the light? And you can see it captures it really nicely in the light. I'm not sure how it comes up on camera, if at all, but it really, I really like how that came out.
Awesome. All right, next question from Randy Gerards. What would you do if you were to encounter a Mimic in real life?
I've always, first of all, this is the making of documentary for the Mimic. But I'm about to give you a life lesson here, Jocks.
Yeah, what would you do?
Just real time, because I'm so street cred, right? I would go, nice to meet you, Mr. Mimic. Reach out my hand, right?
Then reach out his feet.
Right, reach out towards his hand, right? Then pull my hand back, thinking I'm about to punch him.
Are you going to go,
right? No. And I go, ugh, not him. That's what I would do. What would you do,
He's
Jocks?
a very, very tall guy. So where would you be nutting him? His
in the nuts.
In his tongue. Me?
Yeah. Run away.
No.
I know it. That's what you're going to say.
I just roll. Keep on rolling.
Touche. I like it, Jocks.
Roll.
Rolling.
And a backstab. Done.
I wish I thought of that.
All right. Jennifer Traynor. What made you guys decide to make the Mimic so big?
I didn't decide to make the Mimic so big. He is this big.
Yeah, he is big in the
If
game.
you compare him to Artorias, and I believe we have an Artorias, we'll show you a comparison video, or picture, or not picture, actually have them side by side. But the boy is tall. He is tall. He's so long and lanky. He is this tall. And we have a set size that we have for the series. Now you could say Artorias, compare it to Select, compare it to Ornstein. Yes, you could argue that Sif, of course, is much bigger in game, but of course, with keeping it within the sort of scale, they sort of make sense. This is how big the Mimic is, and that's no ifs or buts. So we went with a bunch of side-by-side comparisons with From Software and said, okay, X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z were different sizes, and they went, boom, X. I was like, the biggest? They went, the biggest. I was like, okay, or whatever it was. But yeah, the guy is big, Jennifer. He's not like Solaire size. The guy is super tall.
It's not a tiny chest. It's a big chest.
He's absolutely.
He needs a big chest to fit that big tongue in there.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So definitely he is that tall. I think that's a great time to actually talk about the actual size shocks. So let's say you're thinking you're going to be getting Mimic, something that's going to be part of your Dark Souls collection, or maybe not even your Dark Souls collection, just your creepy collection. Like some people might like. True. I know you create quite a lot of horror lines as well.
Horror lines as well, yeah. It goes really well with that kind of that style.
Absolutely, that kind of style. So if you want to know how big he is, let's sort of give an idea of somewhere on your shelf. So these are 330 ml cans. That is for the Americans go for about 355 off the top of my head. Now this is just shy. It's just over 5. This is like
ever so slightly over 5.
Oh,
that's not straight. Yeah.
Well.
So I would say this is the highest point.
Yeah. So
this point here.
It's come up to about here, I would say, depending on the angle that you're looking. But yeah, that's basically what we're sort of saying. So that is pretty tall. You're definitely going to need a bit of space for the height. I think the depth is okay as well. Well, you'll come back to me and give me some
I've got to say, guys, this is not the tallest character in our Dark Souls range.
Which one's that?
I believe it's Ornstein.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Chocks.
All right then. Let's start with the height.
Okay. So as you were saying, this is the tallest point.
Tallest point.
Was it the elbow?
Kind of. Yeah.
No, it's definitely the elbow. Yeah.
So from the bottom of the base to the top of the elbow, I have that roughly about 23 inches. So that's around about 59 centimeters.
Nice.
Yeah. And then from the width, all right, this side, from the left side of the base to the right side of the base, I have that around 17 inches. So that's 43 centimeters. And from the depth, because his hands are sticking slightly further out from the base to the back of the base, I have that around 21 inches. So that's 53 centimeters.
Big boy. Big boy indeed. That is, he's definitely got that kind of centerpiece kind of feeling, the sort of size to him. It's kind of hard to ignore. I definitely think he looks really creepy, and size is great, and it's definitely got that whole feeling to it. Look at that creepy that looks.
That's good.
The way it's like kind of twisting that way.
If it's creepy, then it's working.
No sleep for me tonight.
If it's creepy, it's working.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So, next question from Sav Cantus.
2 questions by him. He's a lucky boy, isn't he?
He's a very, very lucky boy. The base had some backlash, being large and empty. What is your response to these peasants?
Well, first of all...
Is that how you talk to your Dark Souls fellow fans?
Deary me. What I would say is, I think people have said that they said there was backlash. Now, as we were saying earlier, this was something that was actually shown at E3, as you mentioned, Chuck. Yeah, so people could already sort of say, and we actually took it to Gamescom as well, and then also MCM London. So a lot of people...
It's been going around. It's not the same. It's the same treasure box.
Right.
Chess.
So is that piece still in London, or is this piece? Is the one that's still in London? Yeah.
That one's still in London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
their chests all over the world, right?
We should make loads all over the world.
Then the base itself, we talked about having that kind of empty feeling, that kind of whole idea. But also, let's be very clear, it's not like we're not using the base. You can see he has got his feet. It's not like we have extension past the feet. Also, you could argue, if you wanted to say it should be a rectangle, and you could essentially maybe cut off. I mean, if you're going to be super conservative in terms of really keeping right to the edge. Right now, you see the front and the back of the feet are right to the edge of there. Now, if you really wanted to make it really narrow, you could technically remove these pieces here. So 2 whole rows, columns I should say, from this angle of tiles, and from over here, leaving this as the base, and then you might feel it's not as what did the peasants say? Large and empty. But if we did that, then we couldn't do this to the peasants. In 3, 2, 1. Boom! Check it out, peasants. Oh no, sorry.
Sabs mates.
I wanted to show you guys that it comes with, of course, messages.
Who left me a message?
Oh, it was it Sav. Oh, was it someone else? It was peasants. Oh, who was there? Who left us messages?
Chess ahead.
Indeed.
Yes.
Now, if you go back to what we were saying, Chogs, and you remove this section, you would not get the beautiful message effect. And what is this about, Chogs? We're trying to represent Dark Souls. This is almost one of the most common. Well, I say common energy. I mean, it's from Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. It's not like you have Artorias from 1, Ornstein from 1, all that sort of stuff. These go throughout all of the series.
The series, yeah.
But also, what's really and our Artorias has been its piece. You fight Artorias. This is what the base looks like because it's in that scene. You fight Ornstein. He's on this pillar from his scene. Really straightforward. But Chogs, this is the perfect time to bring in the messages, and the messages are integral to the game. When you think of Dark Souls, you know that there are these messages. Chogs, do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Definitely. It's like as soon as you start playing, right at the beginning, you approach these like the tutorials. The messages are the tutorials, but as you keep going into the game, as long as you have the online enabled on it, people play in the same world. They can leave messages.
Right.
You know,
even the developers can also.
They can leave messages and say, "Hey, there's a danger ahead, up ahead," or maybe they're just trying to fool you and say, "Oh, it's fine over there. There's no real mimic over there."
Right. And it's just trying to fool you.
Yeah, you can do that, right? And then you just go up there and you click on the messages. You can say, "Oh, I've seen that message before. They tricked me. I'm going to downvote it." And so you can give ratings to the messages, and from a distance, for example, you're approaching this level from a distance. You can see the orange text like flashing along the ground,
sort of shimmering.
Yeah, shimmering. You go up towards it and you press it. It's like, is this a real thing or not? And then this is exactly how we want to represent it in this level here. So,
and that really is the point when you think about we'll call it a non-boss character, one that you see more than once.
Yeah.
How can we tie that into, like, does it make sense to have this on the boss fight with Artorias? No, you walk into the scene, you fight Artorias, and it doesn't message about it.
Hold on.
Exactly. So what is Dark Souls? It's fighting, it's rolling, but it's also exploration. And you're not getting exploration with a boss fight. You're going there, you're going to kick some butt, or you get your butt kicked. That is all it is. But there is a whole thing about the beautiful world, moving from here, moving to there. And this is what you see on your travels. These orange text messages. And it makes sense to have it at the exploration stage, not in the middle of a massive boss fight. Oh, do you think you got time to read stuff when you're fighting Sith? No, you got a bloody sword coming towards your head. You better roll away. So this is really perfect time to give that homage, to really bring in, show and tie this into Dark Souls. this is a Dark Souls-centric concept to have these messages. What better way to do it than with a Mimic? Quite frankly, I think it's the best way to really show that, and hopefully you guys agree. And those that were a little bit confused, shall we say, about the base can now see the errors of your ways. Can now understand why that was there, and to really give the understanding of how we tied it all together. It's not just the Mimic, it's not just the messages. This is Dark Souls, guys. This is the exploration. That is what you're supposed to get when you look at this piece. It's supposed to give you that sense of your Dark Souls experience. It's not about, boom, I'm fighting Artorias. I remember that fight, that was cool. Boom, I'm fighting Ornstein. Oh look, Sombro, I like Solaire, that's cool. Oh look, it's Sif, I fought that guy. This is supposed to be, what do you get when you look at our products? Different things for, but we think about it, when we do our other pieces, nostalgia is always one of the high things, right? Nostalgia for certain characters, maybe it's some from our other franchises or whatever it may be that have longer histories, 20, 25 years, right? It's the nostalgia effect. What are we going for with this? It's not just, let's just make a figure and then, that's it. No. What is it that you're trying to give the people who buy this? Emotion, connection, feeling. It's got to go beyond just, hey, it looks cool and it looks just like it's come out from the game. What can we do to tie it into the expression of exploration, that feeling that you get when you play Dark Souls? Because it's not just boss fighting chocks, it's not just dying, it's not just rolling, it's exploration, it's messages, it's uniquely Dark Souls, and how do we bring that in there? And I can tell you now as well, bonfires, of course, they're uniquely Dark Souls, and that's not something that we've forgotten either. We got some cool stuff coming with that, but just to give you an idea, this is the perfect time. It doesn't make sense. When we're using the bonfire design for the future stuff, it makes sense. It really makes sense. And it's not just, it's a random bonfire in a random place. It doesn't make sense. This makes perfect sense to bring out the messaging system to show that for the Mimic, bar none. I can't think of anything better because...
So what kind of message would you say this is?
F4F is love and F4F is life, of course. With tons of upvotes.
So imagine this scenery where, the player approached the text message, open it up, and it goes, treasure ahead.
There you go.
You've been fooled! Because all of a sudden Mimic starts jumping out in front of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Or maybe you've already been warned, Mimic ahead, but hey, I'm tough. I can do a couple of rows and a backstab, so whatever.
That's what I'll go for.
Hopefully you guys like that nice little touch there. It's very subtle, but it makes a big difference to the base.
It makes a huge difference to the base.
And the reason why we really went for this, obviously, license, I had their feedback on this one because it's based on that level, and obviously you want to give that kind of loneliness, that kind of emptiness area. As soon as you go approach it, open the messages, boom, in your face. So it's kind of like there's a lot involved there.
Right, absolutely. So I obviously I think people actually kind of felt it as well. They felt that maybe it was missing something, and in terms of Sav kind of talking about the backlash.
I don't see no backlash. I think once people understood it, like a lot of people was like, when I was taking these to conventions and trying to explain the whole backstory of it, and then people were like, all right.
But also, it's also just say that this message itself is actually not small messages. They're not like messages that can fit in a square. And if that was the case, we could then remove. But actually, the messages are big, and this is to scale. The messages itself is to scale. Now, of course, I wanted to be very, very clear, Chocks. We've kind of jumped into it.
Okay.
This is actually the exclusive version of the Mimic, to be very clear. So what we saw before, which didn't have the text, is the standard version, which we took to, which was at E3, Gamescom, etc., etc. That was the standard version. This is the exclusive version. We kind of boomed into it, kind of fun way. But just to reiterate, this is the exclusive version that will come with the text, with the message text in there. And if you would have seen, if you've been having an eagle eye, on the back there is a little button because, and Ting, it's probably a great time to do an overlay here because with super bright lighting, but boom! Now you really can't see it from this angle, I'm sure, but this beautiful messages light up just like the game.
These are animated LEDs, guys, so you have that same light up effect.
As I was going to say, so it's not just enough for it just to be lit. It also has to look like it was in the game, and in the game itself, it's kind of movement to it. Now, I'm sure that Ting has run some overlays on seeing how that looks. You can really get an idea. It's not just like that. Yeah.
Like static, you mean? Like static.
Right. Now, right now, there is a choice of. The way we've done it is you turn it on, and then it takes a bit of, then it starts doing that movement on it. Then what you do is if I push the button again, all the lights turn on, like full max, because if it's in the middle of the motion, some of it's going to be bright, and then some of it's going to be moving around, and they all turn on, and then they start all fading down when you turn it off. Do you think it's necessary to have it as a fixed, completely on? I'm not actually convinced it is, because in the game itself, it's never just.
In the game, it's always moving.
I'd like to hear what you guys think. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the club. Do we look to implement another mode where it's a forever on mode? Now, we always do that when it comes to, let's say, an example where we have a fire and it's always flickering. People might actually have it in a always on mode or whatever it may be. I can understand that. But for this, because it's done in a very, very, very specific way from the game itself, I'm not sure that we need to do that, but I'd like to hear what you guys think. It's we can sort that out. That's not a problem. I'd just love to hear what you think, if it's necessary or not. Would you ever do that? Or would you always have it in that flicker mode? What would you do, Chucks? What do you think?
Me? I like movement, so it goes in well with the game.
So you would never put it in a solid on mode. Okay, that's
just my choice. But
of
hey
course.
guys, if you want that mode, do let us know in the comments.
Right, absolutely. Cool.
All right, moving on. Next question. Oh, just to give you the weight of the exclusive version, it's 9.76 kg.
Did you give the regular one, the standard one as well?
I haven't, I don't believe, but
okay.
It should pretty much be the same,
right.
apart from the electronics. So
just 10 kilograms. Is that why it's heavy moving that base?
It's very heavy. Yeah.
Almost caught it underneath there. I take my fingers off. Jesus.
All right. Next question from Alessio Bucci. If you scale down a little the legs and arms, it already has a big head for an SD PVC figure. Got any plans for this?
That's a great question. So those that don't know, we also do a SD Dark Souls line, and Ting do some overlays here. And right now we've got Artorias and Solaire, and those have gone out there. We've got some others coming up. Ornstein.
We've already reviewed the
Ornstein, right? What do you guys like to see? I quite like the idea because you could have quite a few of them, different mimics, in SD form. But I think the thing about the SDs would need to be kind of cutesy, so it'd be quite interesting kind of way to figure that out for sure. But
maybe he's having a cup of tea or something.
A rather posh mimic, you're saying?
A posh mimic, yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Shout out time. Right, guys. So as I was saying earlier on, in the Collectors Club, every time we do a launch, we make a post of this making of documentary. In there, I'll randomly add a comment, basically reply to that comment, and you get a shout out from Alex.
All right, let's kick that off. Sam Cantus, bada bing, bada boom, got himself 2 questions and a shout out. That boy's on a roll. Brent Taylor, shout out to you. We've got Patrick Reibensteiner, how's it going? Sydney Sieben, and Brendan Rastello, shout out. One of our lovely admins. Derek Baker, that boy, he's got so many shout outs, honestly.
Everywhere.
Unbelievable. Don Walker Hollander, that's a new name. Shout out to you. Jamie Seitz, congrats on your shout out. Hector Morales, and last but not least, Cedric Bardot. Bada bing.
Awesome.
Bada boom.
All there.
Love it. Cool. Chocks.
Right.
Beautiful standard. Looks amazing. Part of the Dark Souls collection. Throw in this exclusive. Absolutely love it. The way that we bring it in. You've got the Mimic itself. Right there. Looking really, really scary. Beautiful message text. with lights on it. Everything is as it should be. I feel like the Mimic has been done proud. I feel like we've. I'm very happy with how it's turned out. I think we made the right design choices. Great sort of massive shout out to From Software, of course, for being there and giving us the feedback of the key stages and helping us guide us on sizes, the design choices of the base, and all that sort of stuff. So that's really, really great. Except there's one more thing, Jocks. Yeah, and I really want to show you this, so I will do, and I'm going to show it to you in 3, 2, 1. Boom! Check it out, guys. This is a companion piece.
Ooh, companion
piece to the Mimic. Now, this is not. It's its own standalone thing.
Yep.
It's not part of the Mimic exclusive. To be clear, this is its own companion piece, and this is actually what you see. And the reason why we couldn't actually have it as part of the actual Mimic itself is, obviously you can see it's the same base, except for there is differences. You don't have these holes that we have for the pegs of the Mimic itself. So there was no way we could just simply do it like that, right? You had to have this. The whole base itself, and that's why it is a companion piece. And it has this base because you can't really have the chest on its own without the text, because we talked about the messages, and it's so integral to the game itself that it really made sense for you to actually have the text along with so basically you need the base, that's what we're saying. And I really like that this is like a really great example of that you can actually put other figures on top of this that maybe you want to bring into the Dark Souls world, see how they would do. Maybe a 1/6 scale Superman, how you going to do against a Mimic? Or whatever it may be. In terms of having this kind of excess space to do that. But as you were saying, Chocks, you were saying with the original Mimic, the size of this base really is kind of that loneliness that you talked about really kind of gets overemphasized here with the big open space.
Definitely. Like, it's kind of like there's a story to this as well. So what we were showing earlier on, the actual Mimic, and now we have this chest is kind of like the best of both worlds. Is if Mimic's a bit too scary for you, we still have the chest for you. So this is why we released the companion piece. So
that's absolutely right. So maybe some people might be interested in just the chest itself, because that for them is representative of Dark Souls, and whatever it may be, no problem. That's also okay.
And this is in the same scale as the Mimic, the actual head piece is exactly the same shape as this one.
So this is basically giving people choices of, getting the Mimic outside, what we obviously had before, or just having the chest itself. Now, this could just be a chest on its own, because as you know, this could be, the text could say, it's a treasure or it's a Mimic. And in fact, Chocks, you know what? The choice is yours.
Yeah.
Do you want this to be a Mimic or do you want this to be a chest? That is totally up to you. And how can you make that decision, Chocks?
Ooh.
Spoiler alerts, in case you didn't know.
Spoiler alerts, yes. Well, the game's been out for a while now, so if you got this far, then you should know. This here, look, see this?
And there's a reason why it's not fixed. Is that right, Chocks?
That's right. If what you see now, I place this here, curling backwards, that is the chest.
A normal one.
Yeah. However, if I make it straight, pointing forward, what is that, Alex?
A very bad situation. And of course, you tap that chest and you're going to get booted in the face very soon.
Get one of your Sith swords. Ding, ding.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a way to either, or by default, you just whack every single chest.
Yeah.
Depending on how much health you have left, right?
That's right, yeah.
And this is really giving you the choice of how you want to place it. And you can really have it as a real chest or as a Mimic, depending on what you want. Yeah, maybe today I fancy it as a normal chest, and tomorrow.
That's right.
Absolutely. So we really wanted to give people the choice to have that as a companion piece. I think it looks great we'll do some comparison shots a little bit later on where you can see the Mimic next to all the other ones as well. The chest with the Mimic, all that sort of stuff, you can sort of see that. But Jocks, really, really like that we've given this choice.
Yeah, and with this chest now on the ground and it's closed, you can actually see, you know, the actual clamp that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and we actually made this one to be actually sort of real.
Yeah, so you can see there, like so.
Yeah.
And then obviously you get the handles on the side and the textured wood. So detailed, you know, looks like it's made out of wood. So yeah.
And one of the things that we had done is actually to go a little bit further is to make it actually freestanding, so you can actually place this how you want.
Yeah. So if Superman was standing here,
right,
you could put Mimic there,
absolutely,
for example. Yeah, and,
up to you.
And any way you want, even this way. So because there's no peg holes underneath it, so yeah.
Yeah, so we wanted to give people, depending on what scenario they're going to be using it for, because the base, as I said, you have that space to put whatever you want to do with that. And you know, I love the way that this is it's got the texture on it, and you know, all that sort of stuff is really cool like that. So moving on to the texture, it's all the same texture from the previous one as well. Now, it's always important to be on your guard all the time. You never know when you're playing with any of these games if it's going to be the Mimic, if it's going to be, you know, attacking you. If you're not sure about what's happening, wherever it may be, you never know what might happen.
You've got to be very observant.
You'll be very observant because
in the game when you're approaching anything, especially these chests.
Because, you know, my understanding is, Jocks, that when you play it, the first thing you say is you've got to look at you should be looking at the chain.
The chain,
right?
Yeah, that's right. What else do you actually spot? And you give it a quick double tap. Yeah.
But then, if you give it a double tap, Jocks, what happens if you don't have any health?
Yeah, what happens if you hit it a bit too hard?
Yeah.
So if you're from a distance, you see a chest in the distance, I mean, obviously you kind of zoom in and check out the chain. If you know.
That's only if you know, right?
That's if you know. What's the other method? It's kind of like spot the difference, right? This is like playing. Yeah.
Actually, I think it.
Shh. Someone's sleeping. Shh. Someone's sleeping. Approach with care.
Absolutely right, Jocks. This is the exclusive version of the companion chest.
Exclusive companion edition.
And what that means is, look at that. How cool is that? We had so much fun. So much fun doing that.
Oh my god, we had to keep this silent for a long time. Yeah.
Look at the way that opens up to reveal those finger teeth. Closes down like that. Just give the feeling of breathing. When we showed that to FromSoft, they were like, in Japanese. And we figured it would be a disservice to not do that, to be honest with you.
You could just sit here and just stare at that for hours and hours, like. Yeah.
and you got it the right way around, haven't you, Jocks?
That's right.
Now, as an exclusive version, of course, it also comes with this light up as well. So
the text on the ground, that's light up as well. So it's exactly like the exclusive Mimic you saw earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
So the standard version does not come with the light up, and it doesn't come with the breathing movement of it.
That's right.
The exclusive version does.
It does come with the animated box and the animated lights.
It just looks so freaky. I mean, this is kind of new for us, Jocks. I mean, we did a bit of spinning stuff with we made some previous products that had some movement in it. This is something that we really wanted to bring into the piece itself and allow for it to do that. And you know, there's a lot of contraptions in there as well right now. We've got to kind of figure a way to kind of hide it down a little bit more. But just to give that, we'll do that at the production stage. But you know, the effect is there. I mean, You'd say he sort of breathes once every 10 seconds, would you say?
Yeah. Definitely. If you're in the game, you can see it right from a distance. Zoom in, you can see the teeth. That's how you tell the difference between a mimic and a real chess.
So I'm counting it's about 12 seconds in my head.
He's very tired.
I gotta say,
simple but very effective. We Mimic was a character where should we do him out of the box? With the box, and we hope that with the exclusive Mimic that it will cater to those guys that, oh wow, this is the moment where I first met a Mimic. I didn't even see these small features. I just went in there hoping it was a treasure chest.
Right.
Open it up, bam, grabbed me, kicked me. That's a lot of people's first experience.
This is absolutely what we talked about. Dark Souls is an experience that's more than just boss fights and difficulty. It's beautiful worlds, exploration. It's that first time. You'll remember that. You'll remember the first time you know, if you didn't, obviously...
If you didn't know the smaller details,
right.
yeah. So it's kind of best of both worlds. So like, hey, if Mimics was attacking you for the first time, or if this is your first time, or even both, there's choices for everyone.
Absolutely. Chocks, hit me with those measurements and then let's do some comparison video.
Alright then, measurements for the actual
shots.
Companion piece.
Yeah.
Right, so the base is going to be exactly the same as the Mimic exclusive before.
But the other one, it extended past a bit.
Yep, extended past. So the base one is going to be...
what was it? It was a 17 inches,
yes,
which is, so 17 square.
17
right?
by 17, so
so
and it's like 2 inches high.
Right.
Yeah, so it's 2 inches high, which is around about 5 centimeters high, 17 inches across and 17 inches deep. So that's around about 43 centimeters. And the base weight on this is around about 7.53 kg. All right, that's just the base down here. For the chest itself, I have the height around about 5 inches. So that's 13 centimeters high. The width around 7 inches, so that's 18 centimeters wide. And the depth is around about 4.5 inches, so that's 12 centimeters. So it's roughly about 0.73 kg, the actual weight of the chest itself.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah, that's the breakdown of the companion piece.
All right, Chocks. I think now's a great time to do a comparison, sort of get them all together.
Yeah.
Let's get the Mimic itself, the chest, and Artorias. Let's just sort of compare how they look all together, right?
Cool.
Why don't we do that in 3, 2, 1. Boom! Check it out, guys, all over. Chocks, what's in front of you?
The Mimic companion piece.
Of course, Mimic itself in the middle and OG Artorias right here in front of me.
That's right.
Now, I'm really, really happy to see how they all sort of go side by side. It looks really, really great. I love the way that they're into scale. And a Mimic is a big boy. You can get a really good idea, especially because a lot of Dark Souls fans may already have Ornstein in their collection. You get a better idea of just how big Mimic is and how they compare side by side in terms of sizing and what have you. So hopefully that you have sort of seen and sort of watched the making of, have a better idea of understanding of why we did what we did. And there's one thing I wanted to add, Chocks. There are some things, just if you just want to go through that for the exclusive
example, for the exclusive version with the light up text, back of the base there's a USB port. And there's also an LED indicator because this one has a built-in rechargeable, removable battery, so you don't have to worry about any dead batteries or things. They are replaceable. Obviously, there's a button there to activate the animated lights as well. And yeah, I mean, having these next to each other, you can understand that the whole level, the whole world, how it blends in. You can imagine tons and tons of these mimics scattered around and place anywhere you really want, and these really go well with our SD lines as well. So if you picked up an Artorias SD, just place it on here or here, anywhere you want. It just goes in well with the Dark Souls collection.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. What is he? Real or fake right now?
Right now he's the. We're gonna wait until he breathes again. I believe he's the real deal.
The real deal. All right, guys. Well, look, thank you so much for watching this documentary. We really appreciate that. You know, definitely, we hope you feel a little bit more understanding of why we did what we did. Chocks.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the 5th Dark Souls piece in the line. If you want to us to continue, please let us know in the comments which next character we should work on. If you're interested in all our other pieces of Dark Souls, make sure you check out those on our YouTube. And at the same time with this video, please also check out the hype video, because in there will be a much better comparison picture with all the other characters that we have in the line.
Right, and you can see the effects a lot better.
The effects
as well.
on those are better, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Chocks, that one's wrapped up then.
All right, cool.
All right. I'm your host, Alex.
I'm Chuckles.
F4F is love.
F4F is life.
I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Laters.